Hello, friends, and welcome back. Today, after a 4-year hiatus, we have decided to bring back Infinite Loop, which was the pseudo podcast that Azriel started back in 2020 when we were living on our homestead. As we've been traveling the ability to just sit down and have these conversations are something that we do often. We're just not doing it on camera. And we decided that with the acceleration of energy and the seemingly speeding up of time, it would be a great opportunity to sit down and have some of these discussions on camera again. So welcome back. If you're new, welcome. For those who don't know, I am Shaina Farmer.
I'm Azriel. Hello, friends.
And we are here to talk about anything and everything. The title of this series is Infinite Loop, in that as we work through our soul's growth and we continue to trust ourselves, the energy that is around us is infinite, and the loop that we find ourselves in is one of continuous growth and not of the cyclical nature, which is where that title comes from.
Yes, ever evolving.
We decided that the perfect discussion to start this off again was going to be something that is very close to our hearts, something that has led us here in this library today having this discussion, chat. No, not really discussion. Chat.
Sure,
Conversation. And that is the ability to trust oneself. A phrase that we often say, and you will actually see written on the bus, is 5-3, which stands for trust you.
Yes. When we're speaking of that idea of trusting you, it's not the thoughts that are streaming within your mind. Our mind has a way of convincing us or unconvincing us of anything and everything. It's trusting in what you're feeling. What you're feeling is always truth. There's no distorting it. There's not an illusion to it. It's exactly what recognition you're in need of at that moment. And it's coming directly to you whenever you're open to receiving it. At some juncture along this journey, we've all had that gut feeling, we'll say. That little nudge or that soul's or spirit's message or gathering of our attention. And then we make a choice. And if we're following our mind, we try to rationalize it, or put logic to it, or decipher it even. And in doing so, you're shifting what you're receiving. When you have that gut feeling, there's a reason. And how you respond to it is exactly the opportunity that is not only going to offer you the greatest growth, but the encouragement and a further step in the direction that you're heading, that you are desiring to move towards, that you just know.
I will say that the ability to recognize that feeling is something that comes with practice. It's something that we all are inherently born with. We all have intuition. We all, as a child, you feel something and you know whether that's something you want to do or you don't. And as we grow, we are put into these systems that tell us you need to see something to believe it. If you don't see it with your eyes, then it's not real. And when you follow that line of reasoning, it's really hard to trust what you know to be true because you're waiting to see something. And the reason that we really wanted to have this be our first topic back is because we have grown so much as individuals, as a partnership, as a family, as a community, because we've had that ability to trust what we know to be true. Can you remember, so it has not always been this way for us. We've lived a large portion of our life trusting what we saw in front of us, trusting what we saw on the news, what our parents told us, what our coworkers told, like all these different people. We were listening to what was being told around us and shown to us as opposed to what we were feeling. Can you remember the time or a time when it became, because I know my answer for this, but do you remember a time when you knew that you had to stop with that alignment of thought and you had to jump fully into trusting what you know to be true? Do you remember where that like moment was for you? Or was it more of like a culmination or like smaller things?
I'll say it's always an ever increasing of capacity. It wasn't something, it sparked. Initially, I had that sensation or that inkling. But it's been this consistent remembrance and reinstilling of it that has gotten it to be so strong. Every time that we share that remembrance with ourselves of those feelings, we're giving it more power. We're creating that environment. There's a saying, cultivate or water the seeds you want to grow, right? Then you're cultivating an environment that offers that growth of what you're pursuing. And specifically for this intuition or this gut feeling, it has been something that has been consistent nurturing and watering to get to where there isn't even a thought any longer. If something is felt, that's the indicator. And moving forward is in whatever that feeling is.
Yes, but it definitely wasn't always that way.
No.
So for anyone who doesn't know our like past history or where we've been together 22 years since we were teenagers, and we spent the good 15 years of our relationship just following what we were told to do. We had children very young, and we were all we wanted to do was do right by them, and we had gotten so far outside of our own intuitive knowing that we had these experiences in our life that came through that with a different perspective might have seemed traumatic or chaotic, or there are all different perspectives you can have when you have something happen in your life where you weren't expecting it. And we have chosen to understand that those instances and those these things happen in our life to work to help us trust what we know to be true. Because I'll use this as an example. When in May of 2020, Azriel was working as a maintenance guy at a school, and when everything happened, we weren't people who wanted to wear masks. We wanted to be able to not cover our expression, still be mindful of those around us, but did not feel the need to cover our faces. And it was becoming mandatory at the place where you were working that you needed to wear a mask. And it was this moment for us to say, this doesn't feel right. This goes against what I know to be true, but the world around me says that I need this job, I need this medical insurance, I need to do this in this set way, but what I'm feeling is not aligned with that mentality. And that, I think, was a pivotal moment in, I know for me, the shift in actually trusting what I knew to be true, because the world around me was screaming out fear and that this was like such a horrible decision. And yet I knew within me that this was the path that we needed to take, because as individuals, as communities, as partners, as all these, as families, your path will never be the same as somebody else's. And there are all these different paths that you can take, and when there are all these options floating around and there are infinite possibilities, the only way that you truly know what is meant for you is to have that feeling within. And the only way that you can cultivate that feeling is to take these moments of differing, like different
Yes.
What am I trying to say here? Like
moments of challenging perspectives.
Yes.
Where it's the perspective you've always carried, or it's something new. Because that's where that challenge really comes about, is when you're shifting from something that has always been known and you're stepping into something unknown. But as soon as you step into something unknown, there are limitless possibilities.
Well, it's like rolling out a carpet, right? It's like it's just this roll, and then when you said, this isn't what I know to be true, I'm going to step into this different existence, which was supporting the family through different means, not necessarily through this 9-to-5 structure, all of a sudden there was a path that appeared that we couldn't, that wasn't there before.
Yes.
And it wasn't there until you actually took the step to, now I'll also say, because this is just a funny little like story, or in that process of trying to decide in this particular situation, it was a very hard choice, specifically for Azriel. I remember this being it was a hard choice. And when you were going back and forth with it, and you were actually contemplating, like, no, I'll stick with it and we'll figure it out, you got into a car accident.
Yes. The opportunity to even continue to pursue it wasn't there any longer.
And now, like, we had two vehicles. We had a farm truck and we had a sedan. And the sedan is the one, like, the farm truck isn't going to get to the city 30 miles away so we could get to his job, but the sedan did. But now the sedan wasn't in commission. And now there was that moment of, oh, this... Now, you can see these opportunities as anything you want them to be. You can say, like, oh, well, now this is, I have to do this and I have to do that. But for us, it was a very clear indication of this is the feeling that we need to trust, because without trusting that feeling, there are other things that are going to come in and...
Everything happens for you.
Yes.
And with that happening, it was that opportunity to really take the leap into faith of what we know to be true. That idea that the more you continue to move forward in your truth, the greater the opportunities of expansion that you're going to see and you're going to witness and you're going to share.
Yes.
So that's what this journey is about. As much as you're sharing with these aspects of yourself, you're sharing it with all those you come in contact with.
Just within your frequency. Doesn't even have to be here sharing our stories. It doesn't have to be on the internet doing these things. It's literally when you are able to create this space within your field, within your, because we all have a toroidal field that goes out 6 feet, and then any being that you come in contact with, and anyone, it transfers over to them. They feel it, they understand it, they get it. Now, does their logical mind comprehend it?
But this is going back to that idea of our mind could convince us or unconvince us.
But our fields do.
It's something that we know. I mean, you know. There's those moments where you come across someone and you just know them. Well, how can you explain that? Or that's the idea of this, right? If something you're reaching for an explanation, look deeper. Don't sit there and try to rationalize it or logically understand it, or look deeper. What are you feeling? Right? When I'm saying look deeper, that's what I'm speaking of, is within your vessel, what sensation are you having? That's the indicator. Does it feel good? Or is it something undesirable? Is it something that you just have this urge to move forward? Or are you having an urge to stay still? Whatever it is, it's for you to understand what that sensation is presenting to you. And then utilize that as that guide, as that tool along your journey. For you're not only contributing to your own journey, you're contributing to everyone's journey.
Yes.
All of us together. This is what this is about. All of us together.
I will also add that when we talk about feeling, we're not talking about emotions.
Oh, no.
Emotions like anger and sadness and joy and peace and all of these different ways that we emote and express as human beings is not your intuition. Your intuition, from my experience and from what I know to be true, is this feeling here within my gut that feels like pulsating energy and pulsating rhythm. And when it comes in, it then moves from here and it will spread up my spine to the base of my head and down my body. Those moments where we get goosebumps, that is, for me, my intuition and my knowing coming in. In fact, when those other feelings come in, the emotions come in, is when I know that what I am experiencing in that moment is much more of a deeper, that's something for me. That is a moment for me to sit with the trees. It is a moment for me to meditate. It's a moment for us to talk out what I'm feeling, because there's all different ways that you can work through your emotions, but your emotions are not is not your intuition. It's not your ability to trust yourself. Your ability to trust yourself is getting that vibration within you and acting on that. It's when you're driving in the car and you're sitting at a red light and your intuition says, take a right. It doesn't have to be these like large life-changing moments. It's these, I guess I'm going right now. And then you're just driving down a different road and you're taking a new way home. There are so many different ways that we can cultivate that intuitive knowing. But the key that we wanted to share is you have to trust it, no matter what it says. Because sometimes it's going to tell you to quit your job. Sometimes it's going to tell you to go down a new road. Sometimes it's going to tell you to give away every possession that you've ever had, get into a school bus, and start traveling the country. These aren't logical things, but the knowing puts you on this path towards your soul's growth. That we all come down here with something our soul is trying to learn, something our soul is trying to work towards. And I think is that knowing, that feeling that resonates in the gut and goes up the spine, is that space for you to trust your soul's knowing. Because as we are all individuals, we are also one. And so when we trust our individual self in that knowing, we are helping every single person around us, including ourselves.
Yes, and reminding them of trusting themselves. For the more that you water that seed, the more that you're going to expand from those opportunities and those moments to other opportunities and other moments, you're going to create the reality that you want to live in, that you want to be part of, that you want to share.
Yeah. For so long we thought we had to like live within an existence. We had to live within these confines. We had to follow these rules, these stipulations, and as soon as we were able to step outside of that, we realized how much larger the world is and how narrow our perception can be. But just as it can be narrow, it can also be widened. Yes. And part of bringing back this conversation and these talks is to show you that these, through our own experience, because we can only ever speak of our own experience, but hopefully through sharing this space with us, it helps you to trust what you know to be true. Yes. And step outside the confines of the mind.
That's the key, is your experience. With this opportunity or this offering of so many different views and so many different perspectives and so much information, and you can take someone else's experience and you can try to utilize that as that guide. In doing so, what you're doing is you're offsetting or you're bypassing your own journey, your own experience. Right? When someone tries to share knowledge, because that's what that's considered, right? When you're accruing information from outside of your own experience, it's just knowledge. Now, knowledge means nothing until it's put into action. Right? Then it becomes wisdom. And your wisdom is what you're meant to share. That's what we're here to contribute to each other, is our wisdom. And with that, the key of this is the more that you are utilizing your experience, the more that you are reminding and remembering your own intuitive knowings, your own intuitive guide. And with that, there will always be that next step to continue forward. Right? It's that unknown. It's that aspect right there that can be the most challenging, that unknown. There's always another step. It's not what someone else has already done. That's not for you. You might have something that's close. It will never be the same. And it's not meant to be.
Yeah. Because
it's you. You're living this life. And how do you want to live it?
It was that moment for us with the shifting of the jobs was the moment that everything shifted in our path. It was that because we loved what we were doing. We loved homesteading. We loved our community. We loved the animals that we had. I loved living in the house that I grew up in. Like, all of these things were all things that like emotionally felt really good. But then, so here's the trick, or the thing that I want to kind of, the point I want to drive home a little bit, is that once you do start trusting your intuitive knowing, you have to keep going. You have to continue to trust yourself. For we are, as human beings, we are in a perpetual state of growth. We are not meant to stay stagnant. We are beings on this earth, and just as the leaves fall and the seasons change and seeds grow up and then they die and we are meant to do that as well. And as you follow your intuition and you follow your trust, you have to continue to follow it. I thought that the life we were living was what I would do until I was old and gray. I thought I'd get old and gray in the house that my grandparents got old in, and that would be the life we were living. But as we stepped onto a different path, I knew within my soul that that was not the path for me any longer. And just as Robert Frost said, there's two paths in a wood. You have the choice to take the one less traveled, but the one less traveled is the one that you need to trust.
And enjoy it.
Yes.
We're here to enjoy it, to see the light of the moments that are happening for us.
Because the stress is still going to be there. Like, you're still stressed. Like, these things are still going to come in, because just as you're trusting this path, there are still going to be always things coming in to go this way, that way. This, it will never be a straight linear path.
Well, and it's not meant to be either. For then you could plan it.
Yes.
Well, if you're planning it, then that means you know. But you never do. It's always an aspect of unknown. It's only this idea that you want to control something that makes you think you can plan. It's going with the flow of it.
Yes. And then allowing that intuitive feeling to guide your decisions. Now, there are ways, just so I can share this with you, there are ways sometimes where I have a Virgo moon, so I get very logical sometimes. I invented the logic ladder in our household, where if something happens, you can move your way up and down that ladder to come up with a decisive answer or solution. There are other ways that I have worked through trusting that feeling. I will ask for a sign. I will ask myself, if this is what I'm meant to do, show me a heart today. If this is something I'm meant to do, let this word come out of someone's mouth today. I will pull cards. I have tarot cards or I have oracle cards, and I'll say, is this what I'm meant to do? And I pull. And those are all tools that I use to align myself. But really, it's to get out of my brain, because my brain wants to tell me that there's only one way to do things, where we know that there are infinite ways to do things. And sometimes you do need that reminder. And as we sit here talking to you, this isn't from a place of, it's just a place of sharing our own experience and our own knowing and trusting that I woke up today. Now, I've been thinking about, we've been talking, so we got back on YouTube, about a year ago? Last November I did my first video in like 3 years. And as soon as I started doing it, I said to Azriel, like, we need to be doing Infinite Loop again. And it was always something that he did, but I knew, because as we travel, we'll like sit in the car together, we'll go run errands, and then we always have these discussions, and we'll sit there and we'll go, we really just need to put the camera on and have this discussion, share this discussion, because as we talk, we have new revelations, and as we have new revelations, it's something that I love to share. And it's taken me a year to put the camera on. Now, the reason I put the camera on today is because I woke up and that's what I was feeling. That's what I knew. The camera stopped recording there for a minute, so I wanted to make sure that we're still recording, we're back. But I think that is our intuitive knowing to wrap up this discussion.
What we're sharing is to trust you. Remember those sensations, remember those feelings. Know that those signs are always coming. It's just whether your eyes are open to see them. And furthermore, know that where you are in this moment is exactly where you're meant to be and exactly where you're needed.
Yes.
Just take that step forward when you feel the call to do so. And know that you are always growing.
Yes. And if you have any questions, if there are any thoughts, please share them with us. We love like reading through comments, and we love sharing from our own perspective, because that's what we are all here to do. We are all here to love one another. And so reach out, Let us know. The call to start doing these videos again is really from this place of unconditional love, not only for ourselves, but for everyone. Everyone.
Yes, and together we rise, friends.
Yes.
So let's do this together. Continue to share and continue to be love.
Yeah, and if there's any topics you want us to discuss, let us know. If there's any like stories you want to hear, I'm much more of the storyteller where Azriel may not be, but I think that's why we have decided to do this now between the two of us, because our perspectives, Ellie likes to share with us. Bruno doesn't know, Ellie is our oldest being that lives with us. She told us the other day about how we are just on such opposite ends of the spectrum that it provides balance for them, because Azriel will have one perspective, I will have another perspective, and there's always something that's in the middle. And that's what we really hope to bring to this space for everyone, is those differing perspectives and how they can come together and we can all find that peace, but also help align, in this case, to the knowing within you.
Yes, and I will rephrase one aspect of that. It's remembering our peace, for it's always within us.
Yes. Yes. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I love you all.
Thank you for hanging out with us.
Journey well.
And we will see you next time.